Hello, great to be here and share my story too. I'll keep it short and compact so that you will have the lunch break soon. My name is Sonja Peteranderl. I'm an investigative journalist and founder of BuzzingCities Lab, which is a think tank reporting on organized crime security and how digitalization changes the dynamics, especially in Latin America. For my recent investigation, though, I teamed up with two Italian journalists, Lorenzo and Laura, who are investigative journalists, and we try to tackle as a cross-border team the global arms trade. Global arms trade is a tremendously transnational business, so it just can be tackled by transporter teams. So we showed, starting in 2017, we showed how a remote arms factory in Sardinia in Italy became basically a global hub for a global bomb supermarket. And a link between Germany, the US, the UK, Italy, Saudi Arabia, and then Yemen, because the bombs ended up in the conflict in Yemen. Yeah. The Yemen conflict, the Yemen war was a long forgotten conflict with a high level of violence. So data shows that starting in 2015, there were an average like almost 500 air raids per month flown by the coalition, the military coalition led by Saudi Arabia. And for many people, this conflict seemed far away, but in fact, there are so many links to the European arms trade. And it's the Yemen conflict has become a proxy war where almost all international parties, like big power players from the US to Europe to Iran, are involved. 1/3 of these air raids targeted non-military sites like school, hospitals, but also just the houses of people in remote villages. Human rights groups on the ground were collecting tons of evidence showing, for example, like parts of weapons being traces, or like showing the involvement of European defense companies. And one of them is Rheinmetall. It's a main player in the German landscape. So the code on bomb parts, it was an indicator that led in the end to Germany and to Italy. In 2016, there were, the Saudis flew an air raid on a remote village, and there were civilians. So a couple of bombs were dropped after another on the houses, and the first family was not fast enough to flee. So six people died, father, pregnant mother, and their 4 kids. They couldn't make it. In this case, like crime targeting civilians could be linked to a bomb part with the code that showed that this bomb was produced by RWM Italy, which is the factory, like the bomb factory in Sardinia, and that is in fact a daughter company of the German defense company Rheinmetall. So we rely during the investigations on the work that the NGOs in Yemen did, the evidence they collected. We obtained a couple of documents, so we had some sources, and I think it's always a challenge, especially in sensitive areas, that it could happen that sources draw back. So one of our informants just stopped working with us during the time, like during the month-long investigations. You should always be aware that working with documents and collaborating cross-border challenges that you should organize in advance, like how you will exchange the documents, because it's sensitive papers involved. So how do you do it? And you can't just speak on the phone about your ongoing investigations. And sometimes you can't even share the names of the sources you have. So I think trust is a core challenge and a key success factor. You also need a lot of time to establish trust to, for example, like NGOs or arms experts working in this area, because first, they don't want to waste time on you. Second, they have to trust you that you don't publish either their sources or where they get the information from, or that you just don't publish too early so that you destroy their work. And I think also like NGOs are an important ally in fields like the arms trade, but on the other hand, you have to keep in mind that they have their own interests. So, yeah. It was also helpful to work with online tools, digital tools like marine traffic, where you can basically like link the codes or evidence that you have from the arms parts with the routes. Marine traffic is a site that shows you, for example, if you put in the number, the number of a ship, then it shows you the routes. And so it's possible that you can basically track the routes from the bombs from Italy to Saudi Arabia. A very helpful tool. And the same exists also for like we also tracked a couple of flight data that were but most transports were by sea in this case. So what we could reveal was a Matryoshka system, and it's basically the internationalization strategy. So Germany, for example, has one of the strictest arms control laws in the world, but that's not reality. Reality is that arms companies like Rheinmetall circumvent these strict laws by just creating a network of daughter companies, of cooperation partners, of joint ventures worldwide. And RWM, like the factory in Sardinia, is one of the best examples for that. So what they do is also outsourcing the complete responsibility. So in this case, Rheinmetall was in the back. The daughter company, so we obtained documents like on one deal where a deal about like 4,000 bombs were signed. And it was between the daughter companies like RWM Italia on the Italian side and Raytheon UK. So basically, there was no direct link between Rheinmetall and Saudi Arabia. You just had RWM Italia working as a subcontractor for Raytheon. So it's a completely hidden network, completely intertwined network that outsources responsibility, and that shows or is a perfect example how the globalized arms trade works today. And we had a couple of stories already published, but I think, like especially in arms trade, like in many other areas, there is no happy end to the story. So the job is never done, and I think. So the job is never done, and I think it's super important that we team up, with NGOs, with journalists, with arms experts, with journalists who work in a couple of different sectors, and also to collaborate cross-border to tackle such globalized but very important, crucial issues. Thank you.